everything you know about how your body moves is about 20% of the picture. You've been told a story of muscles, right? Muscle contracts, bone moves, joint bends, clean, simple, mechanical. It's also incomplete because the thing actually organizing your movement, the thing storing your power, transferring your force, and deciding how efficiently you function isn't your muscles. It never was. 3 episodes in, and here's the arc, right? We started with the fascia, the web, the suit, right? The system nobody taught you about. Then we went inside the biology, collagen, elastin, ground substance, the cells that listen to your movement and build accordingly. Last episode, the nervous system, right? How restricted fascia corrupts the signals your brain uses to understand your body, how that corrupted signal creates the pain loop most people are trapped in. So today we apply it to movement because this is where it becomes undeniable. This is where you look at everything you've been doing in the gym and realize you've been working with a map that's missing half the territory. For over 200 years, the dominant model of human movement was mechanical. Bones are levers, muscles are engines pulling on those levers, joints are hinges. You want to move your arm, bicep contracts, the forearm comes up, done. It's a beautiful model, but it's not a complete model. Right? Muscles do contract, levers do exist, but the model treats your body like a machine made of separate parts. And your body is not a machine made of separate parts. It's tensegrity structure, tension and integrity, right? A structure that maintains its shape not through rigid compression, not through parts stacked on top of each other like bricks, but through a continuous network of tension running through a whole system. I want you to picture a camping tent, right? The poles don't hold up the tent by being rigid on their own. They work because the tension of the fabric and the guy wires is pulling against them from each direction. You remove one element, a single stake, a single pole, the whole structure changes, right? That's your body. Not a stack of levers, it's a tensioned web, and a web is your fascia. A researcher named Thomas Meyer spent decades dissecting cadavers, right? Not the way anatomy students do it, removing fascia to see the muscles underneath, but the opposite, right? He followed the fascia. He traced the continuous lines of connective tissue running through the body and mapped where they went. What he found was that muscles don't just attach to 2 points and pull, right? They are embedded in fascial chains, lines of pull that run through multiple muscles across multiple joints, across the entire length of the body. He called them myofascial meridians. So here's one line so you can feel what that means, right? The superficial back line, it starts at the bottom of your foot, the plantar fascia, under your heel, runs up back of your calves, up the hamstrings, up the sacrum, and the thoracolumbar fascia across your lower back, up the muscles running along either side of your spine, over the back of your skull, and then it ends at the brows, right? One unbroken line of connective tissue from the sole of your foot to your forehead. Which means if the plantar fascia under your heel is tight, it's pulling on your hamstrings, pulling on your lower back, pulling on your neck, pulling on the fascia above your eyes. And you might feel it as a headache, right? Not a foot problem, but a headache because it's all one line. So here's a performance side, right? The thing that should completely change how you think about training. Fascia is elastic. We covered elastin last episode, the spring protein embedded in the tissue. That elasticity means fascia can store kinetic energy, like a rubber band being pulled back before it's released. Think about a world-class sprinter, right? The power in their stride does not come only from their muscles contracting. It comes significantly from the elastic recoil of their fascial system. Their Achilles tendon is dense, stiff, loaded collagen, right? Compresses onto the foot strike and releases that energy back into the next strike. Like a spring, studies have shown that the fascial system can contribute up to 50% of the total force in certain movements. Half of your power output, not from the muscle contraction, from the spring in your connective tissue. You have been training 100% of your attention on the muscle. So half the engine has been sitting there untouched. So what does it mean to actually train your fascia, right? It means thinking in lines instead of muscles. When you do a bicep curl, you are training a muscle in isolation. When you do a diagonal pulling pattern, like a wood chop, right? A rotational row, right? And reaching lunge, you are loading a fascial line. You are training the system that actually organizes movement. It also means thinking about tempo, right? Fascia responds differently to different speeds of loading. Slow loading, long holds, deep stretches allow the ground substance to adapt. It rehydrates, the layers begin to slide again. And then fast loading, explosive movements, plyometrics, ballistic recoil, right? Trains the elastic spring, teaches the fascial system to store and release energy. So most people do neither, right? They train at moderate tempo in isolated planes, working the same patterns over and over. The fascia adapts to that by becoming organized around that pattern and nothing else. Reach outside the pattern and the system has nothing. No strength in diagonal, no control in rotation, no spring in the step. Not because the muscles aren't strong enough, because the fascial lines were never trained. Here's the implication most trainers don't want to sit with, right? You can have someone who is genuinely strong, who has impressive numbers on their lift, right? And whose body moves like it's held together with wire, stiff, rigid, no elasticity, strong in their patterns they've trained, helpless outside of them. And you can have someone with less raw strength whose fascia is well trained, hydrated, responsive, who moves with power and efficiency that doesn't make sense on paper. The difference isn't the muscle, it's the system the muscle lives in, right? It's the web. Transformation is not just adding muscle, right? It's not just losing fat. It's changing the entire system, the tissue, the signal, the architecture, right? That's what we're building towards. One thing before you go, next time you train, I want you to notice something. Notice which movements feel fluid and which feel mechanical. Notice where you feel power transferring smoothly through your body and where it feels like it stops. Where does the chain break, right? Where does the movement lose its continuity? That break, that's a fascial line that hasn't been trained or a restriction that's interrupting the transfer. You're not weak, you're disconnected there. That's a different problem and it has a different solution. In episode 5, we're going to go into emotional body where trauma, stress, and unresolved experience live in the connective tissue. Why the tension you carry isn't just physical, and why you can train for years and still be holding the same patterns in your body that you've been holding since you were a child. You heard the body keeps score, right? We're going to talk about where it keeps it. So I'll see you there.